Editing Amy here. As always, I'm reading an article from Collider and other websites, and in today's video, I'm reading what Jenny Richardson wrote about What We Do in the Shadows is ending. All three other endings. So, if you don't agree with what I'm reading, just know that this isn't me, because I haven't watched the show, and I'm just providing you people with what, y'all need to hear.
Happy Christmas Eve, Eve.
God, I wanted an excuse to use that clip, but yes, it's Christmas Eve. It's not Christmas Eve yet, it's tomorrow. And, well, I wanted to see Sonic.
I come to make an announcement. Shadow the Hedgehog's a bitch-ass motherfucker. He pissed on my fucking wife. That's right. He took his hedgehog fucking quilly dick out and he pissed on my fucking wife and he said his dick was this big. And I said that's disgusting. So I'm making a call-out post on my twitter.com.
But alas, I'm instead here reading about gay vampires. Actually, they didn't even go with that route, so... Why?
Give up forever. Why?
While I'm upset about the way that the What We Do in the Shadows series finale handled Nandor and Guillermo, I first want to talk about the show's poor send-off to its other characters. This season gave Nadja very little to do beyond some comedic plots here and there, and the guide also primarily functioned as a funny side character this season. It's hard not to read into that when all the men around them have gotten such interesting and emotionally satisfying arcs this season, up until the final episode, that is. Once again, in the series finale, the women are sidelined, as Nadja acts as a platonic couples therapist for Nando and Guillermo, and the guide only exists to be objectified and reduced to a sum of body parts for the monster's potential bride, as well as to randomly declare herself to be a bigot in a bizarre and unfunny joke that should have been cut before it even aired. Nadja does have a bit of fun, where she hypnotizes the audience to see her ideal ending, and this pays off brilliantly in 3 separate endings: a Rosemary's Baby spoof, a Usual Suspect spoof, and a Newhart spoof, that changed with each airing. All in all, though, the series of female characters were pushed off to the side for the entire season, and the finale was no different. The most creative and interesting part of the series finale of What We Do in the Shadows was its multiple endings. It reminded me little of the wonderfully meta Community series finale, except What We Do in the Shadows committed to the bit so deeply that it released a different ending with the airing of each episode. The Usual Suspects parody showed a human version of Colin and the guide at a police station together with pictures from the show on the board that contained fun Easter eggs. The Rosemary's Baby parody offered a fun return for many fan-favorite characters, including Marwa and Derek, whom we haven't seen in a while. I'll unpack the Newhart ending more when I talk about Nandor and Guillermo, but I really did enjoy it for the most part. However, the alternate endings bit was the only thing the series finale committed to. In the best episode of Season 6, Con and Play, What We Do in the Shadows hinted at some terrifying things to come. Cravensworth's monster was seen as dangerous, and although the vampires got out of that scenario in the moment, the storyline wasn't really fully resolved. The Baron briefly used Cravensworth's monster to look powerful, but the show still seemed to be setting up a series finale where the Baron would finally be ready to take over the world. What We Do in the Shadows has been building up to a vampires vs. humans showdown since the pilot, and it would have been both terrifyingly and interesting because, particularly, of what would that mean for Guillermo. Instead, though, this plot point was discarded and left me feeling deeply dissatisfied. Laszlo, who seemed to be scared for his life and keeping a secret several episodes ago, was carefree by this series finale. I didn't want any of these characters to die, of course, but I wanted to see the heightened stakes that the show had set up in the series finale. Mostly, it seemed like every other character and plot there was abandoned in the finale to prioritize a focus on Nandor and Guillermo. That part still would have been disappointing to me, even if Nandor and Guillermo had ended up together romantically. But What We Do in the Shadows couldn't even commit to that. While it's no secret that I love this pairing, and you know what, I kind of ship them too, it did feel like the entire episode was building up to Nandor and Guillermo finally voicing deeper feelings for each other. The main conflict of the episode revolved around Guillermo being upset that the documentary was ending because, as Nadja pointed out, it made him feel like he'd wasted 16 years of his life serving them. This would have been the perfect segue.
Segway.
Oh, segue, I'm just dumb. Also, am I the only one who didn't know that Segway was spelled like that? I thought it was spelled like Segway. Like, am I just dumb? This would have been the perfect segue into a love confession between the two, and I felt like the show was bouncing back and forth between the two options throughout the episode. Guillermo trails off during a speech about why he stayed even after giving up on becoming a vampire, and he and Nandor shared multiple charged moments throughout the episode. In one especially obvious scene, Nandor says that he's glad the cameras won't be around all the time, and Guillermo gives him an extremely pointed look. When Nandor says it's just because of how the lighting affects his hair, Guillermo says, no other reason? In a way that feels intentionally romantic. Naja's hypnotic Newhart ending may have shown Nandor and Guillermo as a human couple, where Nando had dreamed up the whole series, but still felt as if the show was once again teasing the promise of this pairing without fully delivering on it. The finale could have been much worse than it actually was, because it didn't actually ruin anything beyond repair. When it looked like Guillermo was leaving the Staten Island house for good, he came back in a delightful fake-out after the credits to share a sweet scene with Nandor as they sat in his coffin together and jetted off to a secret lair. That being said, ultimately, it was a forgettable finale for unforgettable series, and that's a real shame. I do kind of agree with this comment about how this was a type of show that wasn't really going to have that kind of ending, like a resolution and stuff like that, but still, it could have given Guillermo shippers what they wanted, man. I mean, our flag means death, kind of. They got their thingy, and Good Omens people, they're never gonna get that because Neil Gaiman couldn't keep it in his pants. Well, let me know what you guys think about this. Did you enjoy the ending? Did you not enjoy the ending? What are your thoughts on the show overall? And I'm gonna see you all in the next video where okay, so the guy who wrote the Land of Oz series, Wizard of Oz guy, he wrote a book about Santa. That I'm okay with, but then that book got an anime.